Hey guys, it is Tanis with Metal Odyssey, and you are watching episode 3 of What Did You Just Ask Me? A show where I ask musicians questions that have nothing to do with their musical careers. My guest today does not need an intro, but I'm going to give him one anyway. He has been licking bass in many, many great bands, including Ozzy Osbourne and Whitesnake. And as of 2021, he is now back banging his head with Quiet Riot, the legendary bass player Rudy Sarzo. Thank you so much for doing this with
Hi,
me today.
hi, Tan. It's great to see you. I thought we were not going to talk anything about my career.
Anything about me? Well, you can't just ignore where you're
It's like,
from.
well, I'm confused now.
Here, I got you. I figured a better way to ease into this is to talk about something else that is very close to your heart, and that would be your baby
Ah,
pillow. And we will start talking about your little doggy. For those who don't know, that is
my
Rudy.
little dog, baby Will. Uh, she's It's funny because I mean, we're in Los Angeles, so it doesn't really get too cold compared to other places. Like a few weeks ago, we were in what do you call that? Green Bay, Wisconsin, right before the Christmas, you know, holiday. And I gotta tell you, it was freezing.
Yeah, I can
You
only imagine. I
I
was
It
just
was
in
like
LA.
I just, I left the lobby of the lobby, and the walk to the car was like maybe 30, 40 feet. And my first two steps was like, oh, it's not too bad. By the time I got to the car, which was like 50 feet away, I was like stiff frozen,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and
So
You were in
so
Green Bay,
yeah,
Wisconsin? Yeah, no, that's disgusting. That is cold.
yeah,
Especially
it was
compared
cold.
to
It was cold.
LA.
But so when I say that we turn the heat on at home, it's basically in the morning where we've been asleep, we're under the blankets, and it's very comfortable because it's not freezing, but it's comfortable enough to have a blanket on you. And then, of course, baby Willow sleeps with us, so she snuggles.
Mhm.
And but when I go upstairs to uh to the kitchen and start making breakfast, I like to warm up the house a bit. So I just turn on the heater for about maybe 15, 20 minutes, and they'll do it. They'll take care of the morning heat. And then it gets warmer in the afternoon. But baby Willow, what she does is she gets out of bed and she lays on top of a grill, like that where the heat comes from the floor.
Yeah.
And she lays right there. So I always know where to find her once I turn, because she hears the sound, and then
So
immediately she goes right to her favorite grill, and she just lays there.
oh. Yeah, actually one of the questions was gonna be if Baby Willow had any like interesting quirks or like things that you find adorable that sounds like it's one of them. Because you know where she
Things that I find adorable. Well, I find so many things adorable that through the day, especially if it has to do with baby Willow, because just about everything she does, she's more entertaining than anything I can find on TV. Sometimes I
Oh.
just turn the TV off and just look at her do her little things, that she does. And I just get the biggest because she's little, but she's kind of like tough, and she's very serious about things in life. Like eating food and playing. Like she'll bring her toy and she'll stare at me until I figure it out that she wants to play.
She's not giving
And
you anything else, but here's a toy. Dad, please play.
yeah, 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 she just sits in front of me and stares at me. And I could be doing anything. I could be like recording or talking on the phone or whatever, and she'll come up and do that. And Yeah, it's just she's an incredible blessing, and wonderful things in my life. And also, my mom moved in with us, and it's different having your mom when you're growing up, because your mom is younger. And then, my mom is 96, she's gonna be 97 in a few months. And she gets cute, she becomes like old people cute.
Oh
She's
yeah,
very
no, I know what you
cute.
mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very sweet, very cute, and she does, you know, little things. You go, oh wow, that's really funny. That's really adorable. You know. So so my life is filled with adorable little things, and
Oh,
of
that's good.
course
That's great
my
to hear,
wife is very
though.
adorable.
Yeah,
You know, and
absolutely.
and I
So,
got an adorable collection of basses right next to me here
yes, I
that I
have
play,
one
and
with me at all times. The brand new one.
yeah, it's all good. Mhm, mhm.
So staying
So
in
good.
that,
Mhm.
Baby Willow kind of section, if you could, well, yeah, if you could ask her one question, what would it be? And like her response.
Oh, I know. I we have a language, and it's almost psychic because I get it. It's not like I hear a voice or anything like that. It's a an emotional connection. It's a frequency rather than an actual voice talking to you. So if and I think this can work for anybody who has a I hate to use the word pet because it's really demeaning
Mm,
to the pet.
yeah,
but but it's anybody, if you're really in tune with something, especially if it's alive, a living another creature. And we're all creatures. We're from the creator. That makes us creatures. Creatures not supposed to be creepy crawler. It's we're creatures, and so if you're in tune with any other creature, living creature, you can get alive without even saying a word, just by acknowledging each other and trying to like tune in. Because like when you're having a conversation, like right now, I'm talking because you're interviewing me, but you are tuning in into what I'm saying. Maybe there might be some stuff that you might not uh, be familiar with the perception that I'm using, but so you're tuning in, you're trying to like tune in finer, you're trying to decipher what I'm actually saying and maybe get something a reference of your own. Like once you let's say I'm talking about something, let's say frequencies, you will find a reference. Right now your database is searching for a reference to that you can say, oh, I know what you're talking about. It's like when this happens to me.
yeah, yeah.
See,
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely know what you're talking about.
yeah.
Right there.
So,
So
so, so that's the type of communication I have with Baby Willow. I mean, she thinks in terms of being a dog, and I think in terms of being a human. But we meet somewhere in the middle.
definitely. I can see because you have to. It's like it really is. I know that you didn't like using the word pet, and a lot of people use the word fur baby. And that
Mm.
is it's like kind of having to communicate with a baby who can't necessarily tell you with words what they need, but you still get it. You
Oh,
see,
you get it because
okay,
yeah,
she wants to
absolutely.
play.
Absolutely, because first of all, we were all babies at one point. So what we do is we are born with fundamental communication skills that, as our bodies generate, become we get older. Even you have a newborn, and then that same baby a month later, it's grown. And so has your communication skills, and you're listening. You can hear better. Then your speech starts developing. So it's just a matter of letting that that baby grow, so their communication skills, physically and mentally, they grow. So we can start communicating with others. And we spend basically the first 7 years of our lives, of the average human being programmed. Think of a baby as that when you go to your a store and buy a computer that only comes with two or three programs already installed to get you off. Come with some kind of a web engine to search the internet, and then maybe some word processing, whatever. Then you start putting stuff in your computer, that not only becomes part of your identity, because let's face it, our phones are our digital identity.
Yeah.
You can tell a lot by a person by if you grab somebody's phone, you look at their apps, that would tell you a lot about what the person uses and needs and identifies with. you know so and all that information stored in your phone, including your phone number, that now is you're able to keep it as for as long as you live. As you can keep changing phones and buying new phones, but that phone number remains the same. It's part of your identity. It's who you are. Your email is part of your identity. All of these things. So we spent like the first 7 years being programmed by our parents. So nowadays,
Mm.
social media back in the day, when I was a kid, my outside source of programming besides school and family was television, as a kid. And so so it's not like social media is an alien entity programming me or programming the youth. And I stopped at programming me because I'm actually going through a phase of deprogramming. And that happens when I came upon the realization that yes, when I read about human beings being programmed for like the first 7 years of their lives, I stopped when I was reading that, and I thought about it, and I'm going, "Yeah, yes, that is correct." And there's certain things that I would like to change about the programming that I have received in my first 7 years, because it's really old. It's really dated stuff. Dated. And I'm not talking about uh, cultural or society. I'm talking just basic information. Even science gets updated in its information as it discovers. You know, like Einstein did certain discoveries, and then there's people that have come on after Einstein that have either proven or said, no, no, wait a minute. Yes, he was right. But there's also this beyond what Einstein could actually, at that moment in history, because of the technology that was available, that he was actually able to hypothesize, come up with a formula. So even science, it's not written in stone. We are ourselves, we're not written in stone. It's up to us to change the history or let other people decide what our story is going to be like. And I think every human being has the right to make their own story, but it's a choice. You want to make your own story, or you're going to have some other people program you and tell you, well, this is the way you're going to be. And it basically starts with your name, because I guess when you're a baby, you think, so what? Hi, baby. Welcome to this world. What would you like to be called? Bes- Besides baby. So oh, we're gonna call you Johnny. Okay, so you're Johnny. And it's with me, it's a interesting experience. So because I was not a baby, so I could understand, and I made a decision when my birth name is Rodolfo. So when I came to the United States, I was like about to be 11 years old. So by the time my family moved to Jersey, I was like 12. And my first day of school in New Jersey, I sit down, I go to my classroom and homeroom and sit, and I hear the teacher going, Rudy, Rudy. And I'm going, I, who is he talking to? I mean, so I happen to look up and he points at me, yes, you, Rudy. And I go, no, Rodolfo. He says, no, you're Rudy from now on. Okay, I had two choices. I could say, no, I'm not. and spend a living hell, through the 60s, with like just being rebellious, and or say, okay, I'll deal with it. And so that became Rudy. So I know what it's like to be a baby. And
That's
you're
so cool because
told,
I see a lot of that nowadays, that having a unique name, and
mm,
people just immediately try to shut it down, like, "Oh, I'm gonna use a nickname instead." It really does take away from the identity of the person. And it does make harder because people mess up my name all the time. So I just tell them, use a nickname, use whatever. But it takes away from who you are because that is your name.
yeah. And to me, it's not a matter of identity, it's a matter of choice. Choices that were made for me, not by me necessarily, you know. But then again, there's something to be said about that. I don't know if it's just deep programming or the fact that destiny, destiny plays a part. Like for example, I before I started playing the bass, I was actually playing an acoustic guitar that my parents bought my mom and dad for my brother and me to share from a Spiegel catalog, which is basically Amazon but on a catalog. And so it arrives in a box, and I started playing it, and I became very fond of the guitar. I did not know what I was doing. I couldn't play any chords or anything. So fast forward about maybe a couple of years later, my family moves back to Florida, and I go, and back in the day, back in the 60s, since there was no social media, your network, social network was the band, your block, the garage band
Mhm.
that you played in your neighborhood. So I went down to the my block, my side of the sidewalk had a garage band. I introduced myself, and I bring my acoustic bass, and of course nobody had any fancy equipment. We're just a bunch of kids making noise. And I go, "Hi, I'm Rudy. I just moved in, and I like to join your band." They look at my guitar and says, "Well, we got too many guitar players. If you want to join the band, you gotta play bass." And I say, "What's that?" And they say, "Oh, it's like playing a guitar solo during the whole song." I said, "That's me. That's for me. I'll do it." So what I'm saying is that me playing the bass, if it wasn't for that guy in the garage telling me, "You're gonna play bass," I'm not done it. So here we go. Fast forward a few years ago, I was doing, when podcasts started happening, I was doing an interview, and as I'm telling the story, it dawned on me that somebody made a decision for me of what instrument I was going to play. And I was very upset. And I was about to do something about it. So I got out my guitar, my six-string guitar, started playing it, started going online, and trying to learn how to play the guitar, which is basically a couple more strings than the bass.
Yeah.
But still, it has it's to me, it's not the knowledge of the instrument, of what note is where, and the frets and the chords and all that. No, to me, is that my hand for all these years is so used to a bass guitar that what I did is I have a six-string bass guitar, and I strung it like a guitar, like the actual tuning. And I love it. It's fantastic because I can use my knowledge of, like the cage system, and chords, uh, uh, inversions and whatever on the bass. And it's beautiful. I have recorded with it, and it's some of my favorite bass work has been with a six-string guitar, a bass tuned like a guitar, regular tuning. But there's a connection that I have with the bass guitar, that I every time that I play a regular guitar, I kind of go, okay, I'm done. Let me go back to the bass, because that's kind of like that's what I love. I have it's not I don't see it as much as growing to love my bass, playing the bass, as more like it was meant to be. It was meant to be. I have a connection with the instrument that it just resonates with me, and it's a part of my identity, of who I am. That frequency is a part of my identity, you know. So so it's yeah. Sometimes I think about it and go, could it be destiny that no matter what happened, this is what's going to happen, or or the fact that somebody made a choice for me? And I tend to believe in destiny. I really do. I really do. I mean, there's certain things in my life that have happened that I had turned down at first that eventually I wound up doing because that was part of who I'm supposed to be.
Well, kind of keeping with that identity thing. One of my biggest things is my hair. My hair is a very big part of my identity. Um, but and I know that you're natural brown. Is that correct? You're natural brown.
The who?
Are you a natural like brunette?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to be, not anymore.
Well, my question is, we all know during the White Snake era that you did have blonde hair. Would you ever go
Yeah.
back to being blonde, or was that something
Well, actually,
forced on
I,
you?
I was born blonde. I
Oh,
was a blonde kid when I was born, and I guess being in Cuba, my hair turned dark. I don't know.
yeah, no, the sun.
That was blonde. Yeah, I was a blonde. Even as a toddler, I was blonde. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I was born left-handed, and I asked my mom this recently because there's certain things when you play an instrument, you got your right hand, left hand thing going on, and I noticed that I can do certain things with my left hand that if I try to do them with my right hand, I don't have strength, not just coordination, but strength. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, maybe I'm actually because I do a lot of things naturally, with my left hand. And so I asked my mom, and she says, yes, when you were born, you had the tendency to be a lefty, but it was at a time when there was not too many things for left-handed people. So she decided to teach me how to be a right-handed person.
Hmm. Well, it's almost like you're forced to try to learn these things with your left. Like you said, there's no scissors for left-handed people. We worked on that, and now you can just whatever side, whatever
Mhm.
side. So.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah.
So this next one is gonna kind of slightly stay into music, but it's more on the nice side of music. There seems to be a running joke nowadays that the bass player in the band is always the one that gets picked on the most. Is always the joke of the butt of every joke. And I have a friend who would like to know, how do you get the rest of the band to stop picking on the bass player?
Wow. I I okay. This goes for any musician in a band because I really don't think of bass players being picked on. The people that get picked on, okay, there's a saying, if you're on the tour bus and you're sitting in the front lounge and the whole band is out there watching TV with you and you cannot find the asshole in the front lounge, it's probably you.
Oh,
You know. So what I'm saying is don't be the clown. Don't be the asshole. Because this is what happens. When you're in a real touring situation, especially let's say a tour bus. Tour bus is like a little community that moves from town to town. And what it does is it because you spend so much time in the bus with other people in very cramped quarters, at the very beginning it's great. A couple of months later, you can't stand each other. Just the sight of somebody chewing on a bowl of Cheerios sets you off. pisses you off because it's not about them, it's about what you're going through. You know, no matter, it's one thing to be with a bunch of guys on stage, but if you have a family and you're away from your family, or you happen to be sharing the tour bus with somebody who is dependent on drugs or alcohol, and you're not, you just basically surviving the situation, you know. So when you're in survival mode, you really don't have the time to figure things out as to what's going on unless you train yourself, and that takes experience, and that takes making a lot of mistakes so you realize how to do it right, and maturity. So you don't want to, you want an even keel atmosphere on the tour bus. Everybody focus. The best tours I've ever done was when everybody on that tour bus was there for one purpose. And the best purpose, if you're a musician, to be away from home, is to make it about the music, the band, the music, nothing else. You know, if you, this is what I call the broccoli syndrome because I can't find a better explanation. But it's what happens. You're in the tour bus, and you really get to know somebody when you're in the tour bus. You really do because you're living with them, you know. And so, the first couple of weeks, everything is cute, everything is fine, ha 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 ha. Then it gets to a point that everything, and there's a smell in the tour bus of that because it's like you brought in this, you've done so many gigs, you get into a bus, the bus driver is not washing the sheets, you know, all this is permeating, the food's beginning to rot, and and there's this funk going on emotionally and sensually, the senses, smells, it's looks dirty and everything. Okay, so you're about to snap, and you and one of the guys in the band start talking about broccoli, and you go, I like broccoli, and the guy goes, "What? You like broccoli? You're fucking crazy," you know, and that breaks up the band. So I'm substituting broccoli for just about anything. Eventually, that you liking broccoli and the other guy not liking broccoli, now the whole thing starts falling apart, and it happens. It happens a lot. Well, it happens more than not. In certain bands, they come to realize about, okay, so okay, that guy likes broccoli, I'll accept that. You know, and you move and you move on with life because what's happened is that you know the band becomes a business, and if you're very successful, let's imagine you two breaks up because Bono likes broccoli and the other guys don't. That breaks up the band. But what you're talking about, it's a uh it's an economy that travels from city to city. Every time a band like U2 or Metallica of that magnitude that fills up stadiums, you're creating so many jobs in that city. From the moment that you bring your car into the parking lot, you start, your wallet starts opening up, you start spending money. Then from the parking lot, you're gonna go by the concession stand and get a t-shirt or a tour book. And then you're gonna go inside before you get to see, you won't want to get a beer or a hot dog or both. So by the time you get to your seat, you already spent about 150 bucks, including parking, if you're lucky. If you're by yourself, you know. And and then of course, the catering and the local riggers and the crew and just it's you're hiring every night about 500 people. If you play in a stadium, that's including security, is about 1,000. You know, so that it's a touring economy. So that has a huge effect on the economy global economy because a band like U2 does that globally, play stadiums around the world, you know. And so let's say, okay, well, we cannot have U2 break up because it's costing the economy too much money. Let's fix this. So this when they bring in. Have you ever watched the Metallica documentary where they
Not yet.
actually, yeah, they bring in a therapist and talk to the band on tour? Yeah, Aerosmith is known for doing that. You know, they'll have meetings every day and they talk it out. You know, and
Like
so yeah, mhm,
group therapy kind of things? Like where they all sit together and talk it out?
yeah, yeah. Metallica, the
That's pretty cool.
Metallica, yeah, yeah. And listen, it's way better than just killing the band. You know, because a lot of people depend on that. It's not just the musicians, the crew. The crew depends on that. Their families. Uh, I mean, going down the line, then you get the record company, you get the manager, you get the producers, you get the engineers, and you know, there's so many people attached to the success of a group. But bus drivers, truck drivers, you know, and so it's like a matter. Okay, nope, it's worth fixing. Let's fix it. Let's find the problem, fix this. You know. So having said that, you know, I mean, I'm just trying to give you as much references to answer your question about picking on bass players. No, this could happen to anybody. Because what happened is, since I've been doing this for 41 years, I learned not to be that guy. I was that guy once, and I fixed it very quickly because it was at the very beginning of Ozzy, and I did not know about the hierarchy, you know. And also, you know, when you that, back in the day, there was hazing going on. If you
Oh,
just joined the band or something like that, if you're like the new one, you know, you get hazed. Band opening bands used to get hazed, or even headliners got hazed. Uh, back in the day, especially with the English bands, on the last day of the tour, that was a tradition back then. I haven't seen it lately. And but anyway, so you know, it's it's not just bass players, anybody, you know, uh, it could be anybody. So you know, just try to understand and go beyond that. And it's very important to understand the mental health. And I'm not saying this in a derogatory. Health is health. You look at somebody, you go, well, that person looks healthy. That's right. So you can do the same thing with the mind. You can talk to somebody and go, you know, that the person has a healthy mind, mental health. So anything that I do, that I make an effort of doing, is to not only look out after my own personal mental health when I'm on the road, but also, if anybody, you know, needs, they must first approach me about it. Because you know, because people on the road who ask me, how do you do it? How do you stay? I've been sober for 25 years. How do I stay sober on the road? Well, I tell them how and why and so on. But I'm not going to go around preaching, you know, to people if they don't want to hear about it. It's like, you know, the day that they do want to hear about it, they'll come and reach out to me, and I'll tell them, you know. But to be able to teach is to teach yourself too, because just it begins with yourself. You know, teach yourself, you know, whatever subject that you feel that you want to have more knowledge of. And one of them, if with me, has been how to deal with life on the road, because I got married pretty quickly after, let's say, started playing, going on tour and doing all this stuff with Ozzy in 81. By 84, I was married. So we've been married for 38 years, which meant that I had to learn how to deal with certain things, not only my life on the road, but my life at home, and have a balance about it. And which is why now I prefer just to fly out on weekends and and be home during the week so I can have a normal family life and then go back out again on the weekend. It's a balance. The whole thing about being on a tour bus for a year and a half, like I did with Ozzy, and I did it with Quiet Riot, I did it with Whitesnake, and in some shape and form, I also did it with Dio. We used to do a lot of European and tours in Russia, and which meant that we'll be out there for like a month and a half in a foreign land, and it's hard. But I just rather do it like I do it now with Quiet Riot, which is just fly out on the weekends.
Yeah, that is nice. I didn't know it was just like the weekends. I knew you were doing a lot of flying right now, but I did not know that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, which is really I mean, it's really a challenge to do it now in the with the weather that we've been having.
yeah. Well,
Mhm.
I know that we have a little bit of a time restraint because I definitely could talk to you for hours and listen to you tell stories for hours. But we will cut it off here. I do want to say thank you once again for doing this with me. I had a lot of fun getting insight from you. I'm a huge fan, so this has just been absolutely amazing. So thank you again.
Oh, Dennis, thank you so much, and I look forward to sharing our conversation with the friends and social media.
Yes, absolutely. So if anybody else wants to learn more about Rudy, and actually he said something earlier about the hazing, you can get one of the times that he was hazed by Ozzy in his book Off the Rails, which I can again go on for hours on how amazing that book is. And I will leave a QR code for it at the end of this video. Stay tuned for more with metalodyssey.net.